Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Terra's Voice and watched the stars stream past the viewing window. His ship was heading home to Earth after another successful mission. The crew was happy because they had just stopped a war between two alien races. It was what humans did best in the galaxy. They talked when others wanted to fight. Lisa Park sat at her communications station and smiled at Jake. She was the best communications officer in the human fleet. Her job was to make sure all the different alien languages got translated properly. During peace talks, she had just spent 3 weeks helping the Craxi Empire and the Velen Confederation work out their problems. The two species had been ready to destroy each other over mining rights in the Kepler system. Now they were going to share the resources instead of fighting over them. Tony Rodriguez was reading reports at his station. He was the ship's strategic analyst. His job was to understand how alien minds worked, so the human diplomats could find the right words to make peace. Tony was really good at figuring out what different species wanted and how to give it to them without anyone getting hurt. He had studied every known alien race in the galaxy. His reports had helped end over 50 wars in the past 5 years. Dr. Susan Blake was in the medical bay, but she came to the bridge when Jake called her. She was not just a doctor. She was also an expert on alien psychology. Susan could look at any alien species and figure out what made them angry or scared or happy. This knowledge helped human diplomats know exactly what to say during peace talks. She had written books about alien behavior that were used by every human diplomatic ship in the galaxy. The 4 of them had worked together for 6 years. They were the best diplomatic team that humanity had ever put together. Other alien species requested them by name when they had problems they could not solve. The Galactic Federation always sent Terra's Voice when the biggest and most dangerous conflicts needed to be stopped. Jake was proud of what they did. Humans had joined the Galactic Federation 200 years ago. Back then, the galaxy was full of wars. Different species fought each other all the time. Millions died in battles over planets and trade routes and old grudges that nobody even remembered how they started. Then humans arrived and everything changed. Humans were different from other species. They did not have the biggest weapons or the strongest bodies or the fastest ships. What humans had was the ability to understand others and find ways to make everyone happy. They could take 2 species that hated each other and help them become friends. They could look at a problem that seemed impossible to solve and find an answer that worked for everyone. The galaxy had become peaceful because of human diplomats. Wars still started sometimes, but they never lasted long. Human mediators would arrive and talk to both sides and find a solution. It had been this way for 2 centuries. The galaxy trusted humans to keep the peace. Jake was thinking about their next mission when Lisa's communication board started flashing red. She looked confused and pressed some buttons. The red light kept flashing. Lisa turned to Jake with a worried expression on her face. "Commander, I am getting a priority message from Earth," she said. "It is using the emergency codes." Jake felt his stomach get tight. Emergency codes were only used when something really bad was happening. In his 6 years as commander, he had never received an emergency message from Earth. He walked over to Lisa's station and looked at the flashing red light. "Put it through to my private screen," he told her. Lisa pressed more buttons and the message appeared on a small screen that only Jake could see. What he read made his blood go cold. The message was from Admiral Kevin Hayes, who was in charge of all human diplomatic missions. Jake read the message 3 times to make sure he understood it correctly. The message said, "Execute silence protocol immediately. All diplomatic missions are terminated. Return to Earth space now. Do not communicate with any alien species. Do not explain this order to anyone outside human space. This is not a drill." Jake stared at the screen. The silence protocol was something he had learned about in training but never expected to see used. It was a secret plan that would make humanity stop all diplomatic work and withdraw from the galaxy. The plan was so secret that most humans did not even know it existed. Jake had always thought it was just a theoretical idea that would never be needed. Tony noticed Jake's expression and walked over. "What is wrong, Commander?" he asked. Jake looked at his crew. These people trusted him and followed his orders without question. They had worked together to bring peace to dozens of worlds. Now he had to tell them that everything they believed in was about to end. "We are changing course," Jake said. "We are going home to Earth." Lisa looked surprised. "But we are supposed to go to the Centauri system next week," she said. "The hegemony of Thal and the Zephyrian Trade Union need us to help them work out their trade agreement problems." Jake shook his head. "Not anymore. We are going home and we are not coming back." Susan came closer to Jake. She could read people better than anyone, and she could see that something was very wrong. "Jake, what is happening?" she asked. Jake looked at each of his crew members. They had been like family to him for 6 years. They had saved millions of lives together. Now he had to give them orders that he did not understand himself. "I cannot tell you everything right now," he said. "But humanity is withdrawing from all diplomatic activities. We are going home and we are not talking to any alien species anymore." The bridge went quiet. Jake could see the confusion and shock on everyone's faces. Tony was the first to speak. "That does not make sense," he said. "The galaxy needs us. Without human mediators, there will be wars everywhere. Millions of people will die." Jake nodded. "I know, but these are our orders and we have to follow them." Jake walked back to his command chair and sat down. He pressed the button that connected him to the ship's pilot. "Change course for Earth," he ordered. "Maximum speed." As Tara's voice turned toward human space, Jake watched the stars change direction outside the window. Somewhere behind them, the hegemony of Thal and the Zephyrian Trade Union were waiting for human mediators who would never come. Somewhere in the galaxy, other conflicts were starting that human diplomats would not be there to stop. Jake wondered what would happen to the galaxy when the aliens realized that humanity had stopped talking. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster stood in the command center of New Houston Station and watched the screens that showed what was happening in the galaxy. 3 months had passed since humanity stopped talking to alien species. 3 months since human diplomats had withdrawn from every peace mission and mediation effort. Amy could see the results of that silence spreading across the stars like a disease. The screens showed battles everywhere. Red dots marked places where wars had started. Yellow dots showed where conflicts were getting worse. Green dots showed peaceful areas, but there were not many green dots left. Amy counted 17 major wars that had begun since the silence protocol started. She stopped counting the smaller conflicts because there were too many. Ryan Bell was the captain of a small spy ship called Quiet Observer. His job was to watch alien space and report what he saw back to Earth. He had been sending reports every day for 3 months, and every report was worse than the last one. Today he was sending a message that made Amy feel sick to her stomach. "The Craxi Empire and Velen Confederation are fighting again," Ryan reported. "The peace agreement that Tara's voice helped them make is finished. They started shooting at each other 2 days after they realized human mediators were not coming back. The battle for the Kepler system has been going for a week now. Both sides are using planet-killer weapons." Amy shook her head as she listened to the report. Jake Morrison and his crew had worked so hard to make peace between the Craxi and the Velen. Now all that work was wasted. Millions of aliens were dying in a war that could have been prevented with a few hours of human mediation. But the Craxi and Velen were not the only ones fighting. The screens in Amy's command center showed conflicts spreading everywhere. The hegemony of Thal had declared war on the Zephyrian Trade Union when their trade talks collapsed without human help. The Silicon Nexus entities were attacking organic species throughout the Outer Rim. Old enemies who had made peace years ago with human help were remembering why they hated each other. Dr. Susan Blake was now working at a research station on the moon. She had been studying reports from all over the galaxy, and what she found scared her. She sent her findings to Amy and other human commanders every week. Her latest report explained why the galaxy was falling apart so quickly. "The alien species have forgotten how to make peace without us," Susan wrote in her report. "For 200 years they have depended on human mediators to solve their problems. They never learned how to talk to each other directly. When humans were there to translate and explain and find compromises, the aliens could work together. Without humans, they only know how to fight." Amy read Susan's report and understood why the galaxy was burning. It was like watching children, who had never learned to share, suddenly left alone with toys they all wanted. Without parents to help them figure out how to take turns, the children would just fight until someone got hurt. The aliens were not children, but they were acting like children. They had become so used to human help that they could not solve simple problems by themselves. Species that had been allies for decades were now enemies because they could not agree on basic things without human mediators to help them find solutions. Ryan Bell sent another report from deep space. This one was even more worrying than the others. "I am seeing something new out here," he reported. "Different alien species are starting to work together. Not to make peace, but to plan something against humanity. I intercepted communications between Craxi commanders and hegemony of Thal leaders. They are angry at humans for abandoning them. They think humanity caused all these wars by leaving." Amy felt her heart rate go up as she read Ryan's message. She had been wondering when the aliens would figure out that humans were responsible for the chaos. Not because humans started the wars, but because humans had stopped preventing them. The aliens were starting to blame humanity for all the death and destruction. Lisa Park was now the captain of her own ship called Peaceful Dawn. She was patrolling the edge of human space and watching for alien ships that might try to enter human territory. What she saw made her nervous. Alien ships were gathering just outside human space. Not one or two ships, but hundreds of them. Ships from different species that normally hated each other were working together. Lisa sent reports to Earth about what she was seeing. "Multiple alien fleets are assembling at the border," she reported. "I count ships from at least 12 different species. Craxi battlecruisers are flying next to hegemony of Thal destroyers. Velen mining ships converted to weapons platforms are grouped with Zephyrian war vessels. They are not fighting each other anymore. They are all pointing their guns toward human space." Amy received Lisa's report and felt a cold fear in her chest. The aliens were coming together not to make peace but to force humanity back into their old role as galactic mediators. They were going to try to make humans solve their problems whether humans wanted to or not. Tony Rodriguez was working at Earth's Intelligence Center analyzing all the reports from the border. His job was to figure out what the aliens were planning and when they might attack. What he found in the intercepted alien communications made him work faster than he ever had before. "The aliens are planning to invade human space," Tony wrote in his report to the government. "They want to capture human diplomats and force them to resume mediation duties. The alien leaders think that if they take hostages, they can make humanity go back to keeping the peace in the galaxy. They do not understand that humans stopped talking by choice." Amy read Tony's report and realized how badly the aliens misunderstood the situation. They thought humans had abandoned them by accident or because of some mistake. They believed that if they just applied enough pressure, humans would go back to being galactic peacekeepers. The aliens did not realize that humanity had made a deliberate decision to stop helping them. The alien fleets kept growing larger. Every day more ships arrived at the border between alien space and human territory. Species that had been fighting each other for months were now working together toward a common goal. They wanted their human mediators back, and they were willing to go to war to get them. Ryan Bell sent his most alarming report yet. "The alien coalition is almost ready to move," he warned. "I estimate they have over 5,000 ships now. Every major species in the galaxy has sent forces. They are planning a coordinated attack on multiple human systems. They want to capture Earth and force our government to restart the diplomatic program." Amy looked at the screens in her command center and saw the truth that the aliens could not see. Humanity had not stopped talking because they were tired or angry or confused. Humans had stopped talking because they had learned something that made continuing impossible. Amy did not know what that something was, but she trusted that Earth's leaders had good reasons for the silence protocol. The aliens were about to learn that humanity was not the same species they thought they knew. For 200 years, humans had been peacekeepers and mediators and diplomats. The aliens had never seen what humans were like when they decided to fight instead of talk. Dr. Susan Blake sent one final report that explained what was really happening. "The aliens see our silence as weakness," she wrote. "They think that because we chose peace for 2 centuries, we are not capable of war. They believe that humans are naturally passive and will give in to pressure. They do not understand that Choosing peace when you are strong is very different from being weak. Amy looked out the window of New Houston Station and saw alien ships moving closer to the border. Soon they would cross into human space, and the real test would begin. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity stopped talking and started fighting. The first alien ships crossed into human space on a Tuesday morning. Commander Jake Morrison was now captain of a different kind of vessel called Earth's Shield. It was not a diplomatic ship like Tara's Voice had been. This ship was built for fighting, and it carried weapons that Jake had never imagined humans possessed. Jake stood on the bridge and watched the Craxi fleet approach Proxima Centauri. There were 50 Craxi warships led by a massive command vessel. The ships were painted in the red and black colors that meant the Craxi were ready for total war. Jake remembered the Craxi commander from the peace negotiations 6 months ago. War Prime Thakmor was not an evil alien, but he was desperate, and desperate creatures did dangerous things. Lisa Park was now captain of her own warship called Silent Thunder. She was positioned near Jake's ship and ready to fight alongside him. Lisa had never fired a weapon in anger before. For her whole career, she had used words to solve problems. Now she had to learn how to use guns and missiles and laser cannons. The thought scared her, but she was ready to do what needed to be done. Thak quote, More.S voice came over the communication system. He was speaking in the Craxi language, but the computer translated his words into English. Humans of Earth, he said. You have abandoned your duties to the galaxy. Millions have died because you stopped keeping the peace. We demand that you resume your role as mediators immediately. If you refuse, we will take human prisoners and force you to help us. Jake listened to Thakmor's demands, but he did not respond. The silence protocol was still in effect. Humans were not supposed to talk to aliens at all. Jake had his orders and he would follow them even if it meant fighting a war. When Jake did not answer, Thakmor became angry. I know you can hear me. Humans, the Craxi leader said. Your silence will not protect you. We are not here to destroy you. We just want you to do your job and keep the peace like you always have. Answer me now or I will be forced to use violence. Jake still said nothing. He turned to his weapons officer and nodded. The officer understood what Jake wanted. If the Craxi wanted to use violence, then humans would show them what real violence looked like. Thak quote, Moore waited 10 minutes for an answer that never came. Finally, he gave an order that changed everything. Attack the human mining station, he commanded. His fleet. Kill enough humans to make them understand we are serious. The Craxi ships opened fire on Proxima Mining Station Beta. The station had 300 human workers and their families living on it. It was not a military target. It was just a place where humans dug metals and crystals out of asteroids. The Craxi destroyed it completely in less than 5 minutes. Every human on the station died. Jake watched the mining station explode and felt something change inside him. For 6 years, he had worked to prevent exactly this kind of senseless killing. Now aliens had murdered 300 innocent humans just to send a message. The age of talking was over. Jake opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral Kevin Hayes answered immediately. Admiral, Jake said, the Craxi have fired first. They destroyed Mining Station Beta. All hands lost. Kevin Hayes had been waiting for this moment. He had known that eventually the aliens would cross the line from threats to actual violence. When that happened, the rules would change completely. You are authorized to respond with full force, Kevin told Jake. Show them what happens when you attack human civilians. Jake turned to his crew. These were not the same people who had served with him on Tara's Voice. Those had been diplomats and translators and peace negotiators. The crew of Earth's Shield were soldiers and weapons experts and tactical specialists. They had been training for this fight for months. All ships, Jake said into his communication system. Open fire. What happened next shocked the Craxi fleet. Human ships had always been small and fast with minimal weapons. The aliens expected to fight against ships designed for exploration and diplomacy. Instead, they found themselves facing warships that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Lisa Park's ship Silent Thunder moved faster than any Craxi vessel could follow. Its weapons hit harder than anything the aliens had ever seen. The peaceful communication arrays that had been on human diplomatic ships were gone. In their place were targeting systems and missile launchers and energy cannons that could cut through Craxi armor, like it was paper. The battle lasted 18 hours, but the outcome was decided in the first 10 minutes. Craxi's ships started exploding, faster than their crews could understand what was happening. Their weapons could barely scratch the armor on human warships. Their tactics were useless against enemies who seemed to know exactly what they were going to do before they did it. Jake, quote, ship Earth shield destroyed 12 Craxi vessels by itself. Every shot hit exactly where it needed to hit. Every maneuver put the human ship in the perfect position to attack while avoiding return fire. The Craxi had never faced an enemy that fought with such precision and skill. By the end of the battle, 49 Craxi ships were destroyed. Only Thakmor's command vessel was left, and it was badly damaged. Jake could have destroyed it easily, but instead he gave orders to capture it. He wanted the galaxy to see what happened to aliens who attacked human civilians. Thak, quote, Moore was brought aboard Earth's shield as a prisoner. He looked at Jake with confusion and fear. "How is this possible?" he asked. "Humans are peacekeepers. You do not fight wars, you prevent them." Jake looked at the alien commander who had ordered the death of 300 innocent people. "We prevented wars by choice," he said. "That choice has been taken away from us." News of the Battle of Proxima Centauri spread across the galaxy in hours. Alien leaders who had been planning to attack human space suddenly realized they had made a terrible mistake. The humans they thought they knew did not exist. The species that had spent 2 centuries keeping peace was also capable of making war better than anyone else. But it was too late to change course. The massive alien coalition fleet was already moving toward human space. Thousands of ships from dozens of species were committed to forcing humanity back into their role as galactic mediators. They could not turn back now, even if they wanted. General Patricia Cole was Earth's new military commander. She had been a diplomat once, but now she wore the uniform of a soldier. When the alien coalition sent their final ultimatum, she was the one who answered it. The alien message was simple. Humanity will resume all diplomatic activities immediately. You will send mediators to end the wars you caused by your silence. You will return to your role as peacekeepers. If you refuse, we will destroy your worlds until you agree to help us. Patricia Cole recorded her response and broadcast it to every alien ship in the coalition fleet. Her message was even simpler than theirs. She looked directly into the camera and spoke one word: no. The war that followed would teach the galaxy that there was a big difference between choosing peace and being unable to fight. Humans had chosen peace for 200 years, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to make that choice. Now that choice was gone, and the galaxy was about to learn what humans could do when they decided to stop talking and start fighting. The alien coalition had expected to face the same peaceful species that had mediated their conflicts for centuries. Instead, they were going to fight against creatures who understood warfare better than any race in the galaxy. The aliens had made the greatest mistake in galactic history, and they were about to pay the price for it. Captain Tony Rodriguez stood on the bridge of his new ship, Human Resolve, and watched the enemy fleet approaching through space. 6 months of war had changed everything Tony thought he knew about his own species. The humans fighting this war were not the same peaceful diplomats who had kept galactic peace for 2 centuries. They were something else entirely. Tony. Quota's ship was part of Admiral Kevin Hayes' main battle fleet. They were heading toward the Vega system, where a massive alien coalition was trying to establish a forward base. The enemy fleet had over 2,000 ships from 15 different species. It should have been an impossible fight for the humans, who only had 300 vessels. But Tony had learned that numbers did not matter as much as he used to think. The first thing Tony noticed about human military tactics was how different they were from anything the aliens expected. Every alien species in the galaxy had developed their own way of fighting over millions of years. The Craxi used direct attacks with overwhelming force. The hegemony of Thal fought with honor and followed ancient battle codes. The Velen preferred hit-and-run tactics using fast ships. Humans fought like all of them, and none of them at the same time. Against Craxi ships, human vessels would use hegemony of Thal honor tactics to confuse the enemy. Against Thal forces, humans would employ Velen speed strikes that the honor-bound aliens could not counter. Against Velen raiders, humans would use craxy, overwhelming force attacks that crushed the lighter enemy ships. But the most terrifying thing about human warfare was how much they knew about their enemies. Tony realized that every peace negotiation and diplomatic meeting for the past 200 years had been gathering intelligence. Humans knew exactly how each alien species thought and fought, and what would hurt them most. Dr. Susan Blake was no longer just studying alien psychology for peaceful purposes. Now she was designing weapons that attacked the minds of different species. The Silicon Nexus entities relied on quantum communication between their ships. Susan had helped create jammers that cut off that communication and made the normally coordinated Nexus fleets fight like confused individuals. The proud hegemony of Thal valued honor above everything else. Susan had developed psychological warfare techniques that made Thal commanders question their own honor. Human ships would broadcast messages in perfect Thal language that used their own cultural codes against them. Thal fleets would sometimes surrender rather than fight battles they believed were dishonorable. Captain Amy Foster was now commanding the defense of the Terra Nova system. Her job was to stop an alien invasion force of 800 ships from capturing the human colonies. There. Amy only had 50 ships to work with, but she was not worried. She had learned something amazing about human military technology. For 200 years, humans had been building ships that looked like peaceful exploration and diplomatic vessels. But every human ship had hidden capabilities that the aliens never suspected. What looked like communication arrays were actually advanced targeting systems. What appeared to be scientific sensors were really military scanners that could see through any alien stealth technology. Amy, S flagship New Dawn, looked like a simple patrol vessel from the outside. Inside, it carried enough firepower to destroy a dozen enemy ships. Its engines were 3 times faster than anything the aliens possessed. Its armor was made from materials that the galaxy's best scientists did not know existed. When the alien invasion fleet reached Terra Nova, they expected to fight against lightly armed human patrol ships. Instead, they found themselves facing warships that seemed almost magical. Human vessels appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They struck with impossible precision and vanished before the aliens could return fire. The battle for Terra Nova lasted 3 days, but the aliens never had a chance. Amy's ships used tactics that the enemy had never seen before. Human vessels would pretend to retreat, and then ambush alien ships that chased them. They would mimic the communication signals of different alien species and trick enemy fleets into firing on each other. On the second day of battle, the aliens tried a new weapon they had never used before. It was called a quantum disruption device, and it was supposed to shut down all human electronics. Amy watched the weapon fire and waited to see what would happen to her ships. Nothing happened. The human vessels kept fighting as if the alien superweapon had not even been fired. But then something incredible occurred. Amy's engineers had analyzed the quantum disruption beam while it was being used against them. In less than 2 hours, they had figured out how it worked and built a better version. When Amy's ships fired their improved quantum disruptors, the alien fleet lost all power immediately. 800 enemy vessels were left floating helplessly in space. Amy gave them one chance to surrender and leave human space. Half of them took the offer. The other half were destroyed. Ryan Bell was still commanding his spy ship, quiet observer, but now he was deep inside alien territory, gathering intelligence for human attack fleets. What he found made him understand why humans were winning every battle they fought. The aliens had spent millions of years learning how to fight their traditional enemies. Craxy tactics were designed to beat hegemony of Thal honor warriors. Thal strategies were created to counter Velen hit and run attacks. Velen methods were built to overcome craxy, overwhelming force assaults. But none of the alien species knew how to fight humans because humans had never shown their real military capabilities before. For 2 centuries, humans had appeared to be weak, peaceful creatures who solved problems with words. The aliens had no tactics or weapons or strategies designed to fight an enemy. They had completely misunderstood. Humans had spent those same 2 centuries studying every alien species in the galaxy. They knew how each race thought and what scared them and how they made decisions. Human commanders could predict what their enemies would do before the aliens knew it themselves. Admiral Kevin Hayes was leading the largest human fleet ever assembled toward the alien coalition's main base in the Kepler system. His force included over 500 human warships that had been hidden throughout human space for decades. Ships that had pretended to be cargo haulers and research vessels and colony transports were revealed to be some of the most advanced military vessels in the galaxy. The aliens had gathered their entire remaining fleet at Kepler. Over 3,000 ships from every species in the coalition were waiting to make their final stand against humanity. The alien commanders believed they could win through sheer numbers, even if human technology was superior. Kevin Hayes studied the enemy positions and smiled. The aliens had made the same mistake that every human opponent had made throughout history. They thought that because humans preferred peace, they did not understand war. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The Battle of Kepler began. When human ships jumped into the system using technology the aliens did not know existed. Instead of approaching from one direction like every species in the galaxy did, humans appeared everywhere at once. They came from above and below and all sides simultaneously. The alien fleet tried to respond, but their commanders could not coordinate a defense against enemies that seemed to be everywhere at the same time. Different species in the coalition began giving contradictory orders. Some wanted to retreat while others demanded attack. Some tried to use their traditional tactics while others attempted to copy human methods they did not understand. Kevin Hayes watched the enemy fleet fall apart and realized that humanity's greatest weapon was not their advanced technology or superior tactics. It was their ability to adapt and learn and become whatever kind of fighter the situation required. Humans could think like any species in the galaxy when they needed to defeat that species. The battle lasted only 6 hours. When it was over, the alien coalition had lost over 2,000 ships. The remaining vessels retreated in complete disorder. The galaxy's attempt to force humanity back into diplomatic service had failed completely. Tony Rodriguez looked at the wreckage of the enemy fleet and understood something that made him feel both proud and sad. Humans had not become warriors overnight. They had always been warriors who chose to be peacekeepers instead. Now that choice had been taken away from them, and the galaxy was learning what humans could do when they stopped holding back their true nature. Commander Jake Morrison led his strike team through the corridors of Kethvar Fortress. This was the alien coalition's last stronghold, and the place where their leaders had been planning the war against humanity. Jake's mission was to capture the command center and end the conflict once and for all. With him were Tony Rodriguez and Lisa Park, and 20 of the best human soldiers in the galaxy. The fortress was huge and filled with defensive systems from a dozen different alien species. Craxi energy barriers blocked some passages while hegemony of Thal honor guards protected others. Velan stealth mines were hidden in the walls, and Silicon Nexus computer viruses tried to hack into human equipment. But Jake's team moved through it all like they had been planning this assault for years. The truth was that they had been planning it for years. Every human diplomat who had visited Kethvar during peace negotiations had been secretly mapping the fortress. Every cultural exchange and trade meeting had been an opportunity to study the alien defenses. When humans finally came to Kethvar as conquerors instead of peacemakers, they knew exactly where to go and what to avoid. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Bell was part of Jake's strike team, and his job was to break into the alien communication systems. Ryan had been a spy for so long that infiltrating enemy computers felt natural to him. But what he found in the alien databases made him stop and call Jake over immediately. "Commander, you need to see this," Ryan said as data flowed across his portable screen. "I found classified coalition files that go back 4 years. The aliens were not just planning this war recently. They have been working on it since before the Silence Protocol began." Jake looked at the information on Ryan's screen and felt his anger grow. The files showed secret meetings between alien leaders from different species. They were not meeting to plan attacks on each other like the humans had thought. They were meeting to plan attacks on humanity. The alien species had been pretending to need human mediation, while secretly organizing to enslave the human race. They wanted to keep humans as permanent servants who would spend their entire lives solving alien problems. The coalition leaders had never intended to let humanity choose whether or not to be galactic peacekeepers. Tony Rodriguez was breaking into another computer system nearby. His job was to find information about alien military capabilities, but what he discovered was much more important than weapons data. "Jake, come look at this," Tony called out. "I found the real reason for the silence protocol." Jake walked over to Tony's station and read the files that appeared on the screen. They were human intelligence reports that had been sent to Earth 4 years ago. The reports detailed the alien conspiracy and explained how different species were working together to trap humanity in permanent diplomatic service. The human government had known about the alien plot all along. The silence protocol was not humanity abandoning their responsibilities. It was humanity refusing to be slaves. Earth's leaders had discovered that the aliens planned to make humans into a servant species and had decided to break free before the trap could be completed. Jake realized that every human diplomat in the galaxy had been walking into a carefully planned betrayal. The aliens had been using human kindness and desire for peace as weapons against humanity itself. They had pretended to be grateful for human help while secretly planning to make sure humans could never stop helping them. Captain Amy Foster was leading another part of the assault on Kethvar. Her team had captured several alien commanders and was questioning them about coalition plans. What Amy learned from the prisoners made her understand how badly the aliens had misunderstood humanity. "Why did you attack us?" Amy asked a captured Craxi general. "We helped you make peace with your enemies. We saved millions of lives in your wars." The Craxi general looked at Amy with confusion. "You stopped helping us," he said. "Billions died because you abandoned your duties. We had to force you to come back and do your job." Amy shook her head. "Our job was never to solve your problems. Forever. We helped you learn how to make peace, but you were supposed to keep that peace by yourselves." The alien prisoner became angry. "Impossible," he said. "Inferior species cannot maintain peace without superior guidance. Humans were created to serve as mediators for the galaxy. That is your purpose." Amy finally understood the real problem. The aliens did not see humans as equals who chose to help them. They saw humans as a servant species whose only purpose was to solve alien problems. The thought that humans might have their own goals and desires had never occurred to them. General Patricia Cole arrived at Kethvar with the main human fleet, just as Jake's strike team secured the command center. She had brought 500 human warships to make sure the alien coalition understood that their war was lost completely. Patricia was ready to finish this conflict in whatever way was necessary. The remaining alien leaders were brought before Patricia in the fortress's main meeting room. They were representatives of every major species in the galaxy, and they all looked defeated and confused. They had expected to be fighting weak human diplomats, but instead had been crushed by the most effective military force any of them had ever seen. Patricia looked at the alien commanders and felt both anger and disappointment. These creatures had pretended to be friends of humanity for 2 centuries while secretly planning betrayal. They had used human compassion as a weapon and turned human desire for peace into a trap. "You have a choice," Patricia told the alien leaders. "Surrender completely and accept new terms for galactic civilization, or be destroyed. There will be no negotiations and no compromises. Humanity will no longer serve as your mediators and problem solvers. You will learn to handle your own conflicts or you will face isolation." The alien commanders looked at each other with desperation. They had never imagined that humans would be capable of such total victory. Their fleets were destroyed and their plans were ruined, and now they were being offered terms that gave them almost nothing. The Craxi representative spoke first. "Without human mediators, the galaxy will fall into chaos," he said. "Millions will die in wars that could be prevented. Surely you do not want that to happen." Patricia smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "The galaxy fell into chaos when you decided to attack us," she said. "You chose war over peace, and now you will live with the consequences. Humanity will not clean up the mess you created by trying to enslave us." Admiral Kevin Hayes broadcast the evidence of the alien conspiracy across the galaxy. Every species learned that their leaders had been planning to make humanity into a servant race. The revelation caused riots and revolutions on dozens of worlds as alien populations turned against the governments that had led them into a disastrous war. Dr. Susan Blake was analyzing reports from across the galaxy about how different species were reacting to the end of human diplomatic services. Some aliens were learning to solve their own problems and were becoming more peaceful than they had ever been. Others were descending into barbarism and destroying themselves in endless wars. "The galaxy is sorting itself out," Susan wrote in her final report. "Species that are capable of civilization are adapting and growing stronger. Species that are not capable of civilization are eliminating themselves. Humanity is no longer responsible for keeping inferior races alive through artificial peace." Captain Lisa Park was now commanding border patrol ships that made sure human space remained secure. She watched alien refugees fleeing from wars in their home systems and felt sorry for them. But she also knew that helping them would just restart the cycle of dependence that had nearly enslaved humanity. Some alien species sent ambassadors to beg for human assistance in ending their wars. The ambassadors were politely but firmly told that humanity was no longer available for galactic peacekeeping duties. Each species would have to find their own path to peace or destruction. Jake Morrison was promoted to admiral and given command of all human military forces. His job was to make sure that no alien species ever again tried to force humanity into unwanted service. The galaxy had learned that humans could be the best friends or the worst enemies that any race could have. The aliens thought our greatest strength was our ability to talk, Jake said in his report to Earth. They learned that our real strength is our ability to stop talking when words are not enough. Peace cannot be forced from outside. It must come from within or it means nothing. The war had taught humanity something important about themselves. They had chosen to be peacekeepers for 2 centuries, not because they were naturally passive, but because they were strong enough to make that choice. When other species tried to take away that choice, humans had shown them what happened when peaceful people decided to fight. The galaxy was different now. Some worlds had learned to govern themselves and had become better places to live. Other worlds had destroyed themselves in wars that humans could have prevented but chose not to stop. The age of human responsibility for alien problems was over. Humanity had stopped talking, and the war had begun. Now humanity had finished talking, and the war was over. The galaxy would never again mistake human kindness for human weakness. The species that had kept peace for 2 centuries had proven they could make war better than anyone else when they were forced to fight.